was wide open.
After the turnover.
He's got a man.
Harper going deep. Caught.
Well, we finally got football again. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and I wanted to get a gut reaction on Colorado's close game against North Dakota State. How many of you guys really think when you saw that game or even heard about the game if you didn't watch it that this means it's easy for Nebraska? Nebraska's going to kill them. And I've already heard a couple of them just talk about that, but I think we need to hold the brakes a little bit. Yes, it's the very first game, and if y'all watched my video when I kind of got a breakdown of Colorado, the game 2, I talked about their first game at North Dakota State, and I made the remark about North Dakota State seems to have a habit of giving FBS teams fits, and a lot better teams than Colorado. And the one thing I learned was I made the remark, this game's going to be real close. And I even said it wouldn't have surprised me if North Dakota State won this game. And they actually could have won this game. So I think everybody ought to not kind of see this as a walk in the park next week. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that next week's game, it's probably going to be just as close. It's going to be a close game. Anyone that thinks Nebraska is going to roll over Colorado, then y'all haven't been watching football much, because one, it's a rivalry. And two, I made that remark with them going into North Dakota State. One, you got to think this team's just coming together. You know, there's a lot of new faces there. So your first game is always kind of that game that, you know, they always say you make your biggest improvement between game 1 and game 2. And so I even said, you know, and then you had a lot of players from North Dakota State that were been playing a while. So I even said that game's going to be a lot closer than you think. I still thought, because being in Boulder and home and all that for Colorado, I still thought they were going to ease a victory. But I said it wouldn't surprise me if North Dakota State did win it. And like I said, they probably could have won it, should have won it maybe tonight. But like always, it kind of turned out the same way what I was talking about. So I wouldn't take much into this. Like I said, I've already seen one where someone said, well, Nebraska's going to whip them now. Man, that's the worst thing to do, is go in there and think that. Plus, Colorado's going to be ready for Nebraska. I even said that was probably what's going to hurt them playing North Dakota State, was even though they might say, oh, we're not overlooking them, they're probably looking at game 2 in week 2 more than they were in game 1. And it's just kind of natural. And you got a lot of young kids and all that. It's just kind of a natural thing to do. And they could even sit there and say, no, we're not. But I'm going to tell you right now, some of them probably were. And again, like I said, they're just coming together. Dion just got this team. You know, this is kind of, remember, we don't get preseason games in college. So this is kind of like a preseason game for them. See how his team's going to do. They're going to have a lot of things fixed between now and next week. And you saw the talent on Colorado. Shadur and Hunter, and even more than that. So it's like, that's what scared me. I've said from the beginning, the Colorado game scares me. It's a rivalry game, and I've, for 50 years watching this, throw the records out, throw everything out. Throw that one team's better than the other. You know, for years when Nebraska was really good, they'd be upset by someone like Colorado or Missouri. So I think for everyone to think, crap, you know, this is nothing, you know, Colorado sucks. You know, was there mistakes? Yeah, there was a lot of mistakes, but there was mistakes on both sides. Like I said, North Dakota State could have probably easily won that game, but they made some mistakes of their own. But to say they shouldn't have been in that game in North Dakota State, that's kind of wrong, because, like I said, I've seen them do it too many times. I wouldn't have played. It was a trap game to me for Colorado. That would have been a trap game for any FBS team that would have went in there. North Dakota State's not a real bad team. And yes, they're not an FBS team, but there's some talent on that team. They're considered probably one of the best their division. I think they're second if I remember right. And so I don't think that we should even take much into this. Didn't mean anything. If anything, it should make Nebraska focus more on Colorado. That's what I would think, because Deion them's going to have them ready for Nebraska. To sit there and say this is a walk in the park for Nebraska now because look how bad they look. Well, how are you going to look next week when Colorado hangs in there? Because it's going to be a dogfight next week. So that's something that I'm glad Colorado pulled it out because they might have been more hungry come next week. But it might have been enough for tonight where they're going, we got a lot to clean up. Look how well Nebraska did last year after that Michigan game. Then they went in there to Illinois and probably played one of their best games right after that, because one is kind of an embarrassment. So these are athletes, and Colorado's got some athletes on there. They got some first rounders on there. Shadur's going first round. Hunter's probably going the first round. So there's probably more first rounders on their team than there is Nebraska's. So with you got Shadur on a team, I don't put it by anybody. For if you got him on that team, you could pull something out. So be cautious going into next week. I still worry about that game. I still think Nebraska's probably going to win that game, but I think it's going to really be close. And I just don't see it. I'd be shocked if it was a blowout, and I'd be shocked if it was a blowout either way. I don't see it like last year, unless Nebraska starts turning the ball over like they did last year. But hopefully that's not what we see this year. If we get a clean game, then you're going to see a dogfight to the end. And being at home, being at night game's just different there in Lincoln. I think Nebraska does pull that game out, but it's going to be close. So kind of want to give my remarks on this because, like I said, I was watching some gut reaction videos, and one that really talked about how bad Colorado was and they really stink and Nebraska's going to whip them, and I'm like, wow, you don't want to be thinking that. Really don't want to get that out where it gives them some fuel to go, oh well, let us show them, because Colorado is not that bad. I ain't saying they're great, and I'm not saying they're good, and I'm not saying they're going to win their division, but Colorado's not as bad as we think. So let's see. What do you guys think? Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Colorado got away with a lot. That's true. But it's early for everybody. We need to steamroll this team. Yeah, I would say need would be nice. I just don't see it happening. It would be nice, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did. I mean, if Colorado plays like they did tonight, Nebraska just happens to play, but we don't know how Nebraska is going to play. How's Nebraska going to look come Saturday? Got a freshman quarterback. I think Dylan Rowell is going to be great, but it is his very first game. And he seems like a kid that has ice water running through his veins. So I don't even know if the kid gets nervous, but I would think he's human and he has a heartbeat, so he probably will be. But we don't know how Nebraska is going to be. And so I expect a dogfight. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Colorado looked like a good FCS school. They kind of played to their opponent. I guess you could probably say that. And again, I think part of it was who they play next week. I even said that about us playing Indiana. We play Indiana before we go in there and play Ohio State. Let's hope we're not looking at Ohio State and overlooking Indiana when we go in there. I said I would worry about that, mainly being on the road in Indiana, but I could kind of see that where Colorado I just think it was just the first game. I've seen it too many times. I've seen on Nebraska teams, good Nebraska teams, in that first game look pretty bad. And Tom Osborne always said that you do your biggest improvement between game 1 and game 2. That's where you need to improve. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Tiger here. We can't overlook UTEP. You know, you watch my prediction video. I haven't said that. That's UTEP's got some talent. Scotty Walden's going to throw some curveballs in there. That offense of theirs, that quick, fast pace. It's going to give Nebraska a test. That defense, that secondary is going to be tested. I think that was another reason why Rule and them went with Marquise Buford at that corner. He wanted them seniors and junior. He wanted them veterans playing because this game with UTEP's probably going to give them more fits than a lot of Big Tens just because of the offense they run. The only good thing about it for Nebraska is this is UTEP's very first game under Walden. So again, kind of the same. They haven't had really a game to prepare for. So you're probably going to see some mistakes on their end too, and Nebraska's got to take advantage of it. And another good thing is they're going to run a 3-3-5 defense like Nebraska does, and it's a new scheme for them. They're just learning it. So Dylan Raiola, who's been seeing it all winter and all fall against one of the better 3-3-5 defenses in our own, I got a feeling he's going to do well in this game. And if he's like what they talk about, makes people pay for their mistakes, he finds the hole. We might be shockingly surprised what Dylan does tomorrow. I know someone said the over under for passing is 240 for Dylan Raiola tomorrow, and I actually said, well, I think he's going to go over 240 yards. I mean, what did he get? 269 in the spring game. Didn't even play the whole game. I understand we didn't have our starters in, but what do you think? The ones that were playing probably just as talented as UTEP's team. So, yeah, I watched old Scotty Walden's press conference. He said had a lot of good things about Matt Rule and Tony White. Talked about Tony White being down there from the El Paso, or went down there in El Paso. That's where he got his football start. But he had some great things to say about Nash, Hutmaker, and Ty Robinson. He said probably the two best defensive linemen they're going to face all year. And I guess with the schedule they're playing, that's probably true. But they're not going to want to intimidate us. But you could tell Scotty Walden's, I think he comes from that mold of like coaches like Rule. He's won everywhere he's went. And I expect him to win at UTEP. The only good thing is, like I said, this is game one, so I give Nebraska the edge. Nebraska got more talent. And this is their first game. It's not for most of these under Rule. This is second year. So because of that, but I think it's going to be close for a while. I think it's going to be close at the beginning. I think Nebraska might pull away at the end and might win by a couple scores, 31-17 or something like that. But I think it's going to be closer than most of us want it to be at the beginning in the first half. But Nebraska is going to have a lot more depth and a lot more talent. And unless they shoot themselves in the foot like they've been doing the last few years, they should pull this game out. But I agree, you're going to have to look out for UTEP first before you even start thinking about Colorado. And then look how Nebraska does before you start saying they're going to whip Colorado when we hadn't even seen Nebraska play yet. We might come out and look as bad as Colorado. But I know Colorado made a lot of mistakes, but they made some plays too. And you could see the talent in Shedeur and Hunter. And them are the ones that scare you. Them two could almost take over the game. You got to hope that Nash and Ty and them could get to him next week. Because if he gets back there and that line just gives him a little time, it could be a long night. So other than that, guys, I was just wanting to see what y'all thought. Wanted to say my words on here. And I don't really see anything else, but it was just good to have football again. Realistic, even though I was watching Colorado, but I think we all probably wanted to watch Colorado. We don't want to say, hey, what are we getting into? Because no one really knew what Colorado looked like. So Dylan, yeah, I agree with Tiger. You need Dylan to game manage. And I got a feeling 42-17, not much different in mine, another touchdown. Okay, it could be. Because the one thing I said the offensive line for UTEP is kind of questionable, and you got we got one of the better defensive lines, even deep wise. What are they go? You got Judy behind Nash, and you got James Williams, and so if we could get our front four to get in there and pressure that quarterback with only 4 guys rushing, then I could see this game being dirty. I could see it being a 42-10, like Justin says. I could see that. I really can. So, I just got a feeling they're going to be able to move the ball. I think with everything throw at them, they're going to do that quick wide receiver screens. You're going to see a lot of the stuff that we did. They're going to do, and so I agree with that, because you could see. Justin said Huskers 42-10. And you got Tiger. He says 42-17. We'd take that. I mean, what do y'all think? If Nebraska just wins, are we good with that? Or are you looking for something else? Are you looking, does it even matter how much they win by if Dylan manages the game, they don't turn the ball over? But maybe they have a few mistakes. Maybe just UTEP plays a lot better. Maybe it's, let's say it's 35-28, but yet if Dylan looks good, mainly what we saw last year, we don't turn the ball over. He managed the team well. Would you be satisfied with that, or would you be disappointed? I'm one of those. I want to just see the improvement. I want to go in there and see kind of a cleaner game. I guess it depends how it, how it looks. Yeah, I agree with Justin. It needs to just be a clean game. If you look at it, I mean, we're going to take the win no matter what it is. But if you look at, let's say they go in there and win 28-3, but yet both teams didn't look very good. Are we going to feel pretty good that Nebraska didn't look good even though they won 28-3? Or would you take a 28-24 game, but both teams look pretty good? Maybe UTEP looked better than they have been. But Nebraska played well. The offense played well. The one thing about it, the offense played so bad last year, I think we'd probably like seeing a 35-20. We wouldn't like giving up the points, but we saw Dylan moving that ball, making them passes, running well. I think that's what I'm looking for. I want to just see where it's headed, kind of like what Rule said. Is these 3 games, like I said before, NFL gets preseason games to see where their guys are. College doesn't get that. So when you schedule games like this is kind of like your preseason game. And that's what Rule, I think, and them are using for like the running backs. That's why I named all 4 of them as one. Say, okay, I'm going to use these next 2 or 3 games and hoping one of them sticks out. And I think Gabe could stick out, but I think a lot of it, that injury, I think it's in the back of your mind. I think if you even asked Fedoni, you could say you're not thinking about that, but that's why I think Fedoni and even Nair, because you got to remember Nair came off that injury, had the same kind of injury in 22, and of course he didn't have a stellar year last year at Texas. It's always that second year after that injury. It's always the second year where they finally get back to what they know they could do and where they are, and that's why I think Fedoni and even Nair is probably going to have a super year this year, because this is now the second year off of them. So 3 scores ahead, less than 5 penalties, and only 1 turnover. 3 scores ahead. Well, if you get that, you probably would. But to be honest with you, I don't even want any turnovers. We've had so many last year. I think we did enough for 2 years. Wow. Minnesota just lost last minute to UNC. Didn't surprise me a little bit. UNC we were wondering about that. We got some, you've noticed there's some tough ones coming in here. What about that Notre Dame Texas A&M game? I know that ain't Big Ten, but since Trev went to A&M, I'm kind of rooting for Notre Dame now. I know that's kind of cold. Um, oh, missed the kick. Oh yeah, now they missed the kick, right? Didn't miss it last year. So yeah, that LSU USC game, and it's mainly I want to see what is USC going to be like, because everybody I've seen teams put USC up there in the top 10, even close to top 5, and then I've had seen some where they thinking they're going to go 8-4, and I think it's more the defense. They're not too sure how their defense is going to be, so I'm kind of curious myself to watch USC to just see is this a team that's going to be up there and give Nebraska fits, or is there going to? Because I don't think UCLA is going to be that great. So, but it's that defense I would worry about when it comes to USC more than their offense. Yeah, I agree. I want to see that defensive line. I want to see that whole defense. You know, Riley usually has a decent offense, but it's and you're going against LSU. I mean, I think the line now is only 4. If I remember right, I'm sorry, I'd take LSU -4. Yeah, I, I'm, I think I'd have took probably -10, but they haven't. I guess a lot of people was putting their money on USC, so it went from like 6.5, 7 to 4. So yeah, USC's defense is not that. That's the question right there. Is their defense? That's what you want to see. And again, it's going to be first game, so can't take a whole lot, but you at least kind of get a feel of what it's going to be like. And you got LSU's usually got a pretty good team. Yeah, LSU offensively, they usually have some of the better receivers, and they always have a good offensive line. So you got to say this. That's why I was surprised it was only LSU by 4. So if you're a betting person, I'd take LSU -4. That's for sure. So, but well, guys, let's see what else we got here. Well, at least everybody thinks we're going to beat UTEP. That's good. But yeah, I agree with Justin too. So yeah, we got some decent games. We even had some decent games tonight, but we got some decent. And now with the conferences, the way they're stacking up, we're going to have good games every week. I mean, even the next week, there's the next week with Texas and Michigan. And I got a feeling, I actually think Texas is going to beat Michigan. I know people ain't going to like that. For Nebraska, my favorite pick. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked to see. I got a feeling they go up to Ann Arbor. I want to see if Michigan's favored over Texas, because if Michigan's favored, I'd want to take Texas in the points. I think Texas is winning that game next week because it's in Michigan, but I'd have to see what the standings is. Yeah, me neither. I'm one of those. I go way back. I'm still like Big 8 kind of person, and to see now like Oregon, USC, and UCLA now in the Big 10, even Nebraska in the Big 10. You know, I was even when Nebraska went to the Big 12. I wasn't happy about it. I kind of like the Big 8, but I guess no one likes change. So you see the older folks, we kind of like it the older way. Maybe frequent flyer. That's funny. Yeah, and you got to think teams like UCLA and USC. Look at their travel. Like Rule said, this is coming like the NFL. Nebraska's probably in the perfect spot. They're right in the middle of the country. Just think about that when you're talking to recruits, mom and dad. Nebraska's right there in the middle. You got someone, from USC and all that and lives in Pennsylvania. So, yeah, because Texas is probably, there's no doubt Texas is going to be, they're playoff bound this year. They went into the SEC at a good time with I think Oklahoma's going to struggle though. and not because Oklahoma's really bad. They're just not as good as they've been, and they're going into the SEC. It's not the Big 12 anymore. So I got a feeling Oklahoma might lose 3 or 4 games. So yeah, but yeah, I got a feeling that, man, were they? Has anyone even seen the line? Did they have a line out yet on Michigan and Texas? Because I want to see if Michigan's going to be favored in that. Because I definitely would take. I definitely take Michigan, or I mean Texas in the points. But even if you have Texas favored by 3 or 4, I'd take Texas minus 3 or 4. And I agree. I think with Nebraska being in Central, I think that's going to benefit them on recruits. You look at it, just look at the map at the teams, how perfect Nebraska's sitting right in the middle of that field for every coast, for California to the East Coast, to Texas. You can almost sell anybody. Be easier now probably to sell them on Nebraska just because where it's at, and it's gonna keep changing. So I agree. So said right now it's Texas is favored by 3.5. I'd take Texas minus 3.5. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't. You got to think Michigan. They got they're starting with a new coach. They lost like 15 players to the draft. So they got talent, but it's their first game and they're putting all this together with a new coach. Texas is bringing almost everybody back. I'd take Texas minus 3.5. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win by 7 or 10 points. Yeah, what's the line for Colorado, Nebraska? After that Colorado game, I don't know. They might wait till after the Nebraska game. Got a feeling Nebraska's going to be favored by, if I had to guess, they get 3 because they're at home. I would guess Nebraska would probably be favored by 6.5, maybe 7, something like that. So yeah, that's what they're saying. Wow. Yeah. I Yeah, I was going to say if you're doing that, that's saying Colorado's favored. I can't imagine Colorado be favored in Lincoln. And after how they looked, and not, I think the problem with Colorado is everybody kept saying they just didn't know what Colorado had with all them new players coming in. They just weren't too sure what Colorado's going to look like, and they didn't really show much tonight. So I guess a lot of it has to do with what Nebraska does. So I already thought, okay, Nebraska's going to get 3 for being at home. So that's why I said it would be 6 or 7. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's more than that, mainly after what happened. Let's see what it was. Oh, 6.5. Yeah, that's about right. And that I know one thing. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't bet it. It's a rivalry game. Yeah, if y'all seen these rivalry games, you can throw all the records out. Remember '97? Missouri shouldn't even have kept up with Nebraska in '97. Nebraska was lucky to win that. Matt Davison's miracle catch. I remember that. I remember it like yesterday. I just edge of my seat all over the place. Thought they were going to ruin it. And then they talk about Nebraska shouldn't have been number 1 because Michigan was already number 1. Well, Nebraska was number 1 before they went in that Missouri game and dropped to number 2, and Michigan went to number 1 after they had that close win at Missouri. So I think it goes both ways. Yeah. When you got a rivalry game, yeah, throw everything out the window. Records, team, Colorado be ready. Y'all don't realize they have that Nebraska game. They always had that Nebraska game in red on their schedule. It means more to Colorado and Colorado fans than it does Nebraska, and probably because Nebraska whipped them for years. You know, so that's a game that's almost their Ohio State Michigan game. It's almost they got to win that one. They could win all the games and lose Nebraska, and they'd be upset. But I think it's time. They've won 3 in a row. And believe it or not, Colorado, knock on wood, Colorado's never beat Nebraska 4 times in a row, ever. So can't let them win, or that'd be another record that went down the tubes. So yeah, Colorado. Yeah, this is their Super Bowl. That's what I said. I got a feeling some of them were. I wouldn't be surprised. Mainly how Dion is and all that. They weren't planning more for Nebraska during all this off time than they were North Dakota State. And it wouldn't surprise me. And that's what I said in my video. I thought Colorado wouldn't be as prepared for North Dakota State as they should. They're looking more towards week 2, so they're not going to look good. That's why I thought it would be close. But I said when it comes to week 2 in Nebraska, they'll be ready. They'll come in here and look like a totally different team. Losing to Colorado twice. And you know what? Yeah, Scott lost twice and had both them games really won. That's probably ate at me. You know, what was it? One of them we were up like 17-0. Yeah. So I just something, Colorado's just one of those games where, you know, Iowa's the other one, but it's a rivalry too. You're like, you want to beat Oklahoma, you want to beat Oklahoma was one. You want to beat Colorado, Oklahoma, and Iowa. For that, it was Missouri. Missouri probably gave Nebraska fits more than anybody back then. What was the one in 1978 when Nebraska finally beat Barry Switzer, and then the very next week played at home again with Missouri and lost 35-31. Remember Kellen Winslow was on that team. Yeah, I'm old. Sorry. So, I don't know. I don't. I don't. I don't think he's. Let's see. Red wine. Is this Jarvis red wine? Is this the Jarvis red wine? I remember him playing. That's for sure. Um, I remember that touchdown, Pat. What was the first play against Oklahoma down the right sideline? Pew, touchdown. Yeah, I miss playing Missouri too. Yeah, we had some games against Missouri. Missouri to me always seemed well, Oklahoma of course, but Missouri seemed to be the biggest one that would give you fits most years if anybody did. They could get whipped, but then they'd come in there and just play you as tough as news. I mean, I think that 78 game, that Oklahoma game just took everything out of them. But you got to think Oklahoma had to turn the ball 6 times before Nebraska won it, and they only won it by 3. And the mayor's or the governor's the one that jumped on the fumble with time running down. If y'all don't know that. Um, he doesn't. One, he doesn't have a great offensive line, but it seems like he doesn't help his offensive line. I watch him and he'll hold the ball. Yeah, I know, I understand that their line was bad last year and they got to him 52 times, but there's a lot of that was on him. So I hope he stays that way. Oh yeah, that 2011 game with Nebraska, that was the one that they came back and won. What was that? The biggest comeback ever. I think they were down by 28 and came back. That's the one where old Miller went down. And I think that right there kind of did it in for Ohio State. Um, who's the one that did that? Was it Levante David that stripped the ball from him? And I think that's where he got hurt. That's where Miller got hurt. After that, Ohio State couldn't move the ball. So, yeah, I could almost remember this. I can't remember anything my wife tells me, but I could remember every game. I'd probably go back and tell you one in the 70s, to be honest with you. So, what was the other one? Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, I like Levante. Yep. And he's the one that, yeah, and that Ohio State. Well, the problem is we haven't done really much against them since. I think that's the last time we beat Ohio State. Everybody could talk about Bo Pelini, but he did win. You know, he just he just had a temper. But honestly, I think if I was the coach, I'm that way too. He's just competitive. I'm not a very nice guy when you're under stress and you're wanting to win. But that was what hurt Bo Pelini. You know, people still wanting championships, and now we're just begging for a bowl game. So, but still deep down, you're wanting. I never thought anything about not going to a bowl. You got to remember, I started watching Nebraska when I was 6 or 7. They went to a bowl every year until I was in my 40s, and it's like you didn't even think about a bowl. It was a given, and now you're over here going, man, why can't we make a bowl? Yeah, it's true. The players loved it. I've heard every player talk about how great Bo Pelini was. He was just competitive, and he just didn't like losing, and I respect that. You could tell Pelini was just one of those. He hated losing more, and he loved winning. And I think, I think because of how he was, I think the referees kind of took it out on him. How many times I've seen a call or something, and I always thought it was because I'm sure Bo said some nice things on the sideline that they probably couldn't air on TV when it comes to the calls by the referees. Yeah, and remember mainly that Texas A&M game down there. I think that's another reason Nebraska fans took offense to Trev backstabbing us and heading down to A&M. I never would have thought he'd have done that. Never. So, but we might be better off with Troy. Be honest with you, it seems like Troy and Rule are more on the same page. So, yeah, refs didn't like. I thought Nebraska always back then because of Bo Pelini. I think the refs kind of had it in for Nebraska. You would see some calls or calls that should have went toward for us that wouldn't be made, and I always thought it was because of Bo Pelini. Not. It's just because they didn't like how he was, and I didn't have a problem with him, but he's not cussing me out on the sideline. So to me, he was fiery. At least he's taking up for his team, that's for sure. You know, not everybody's like Tom Osborne. Oh, Coach Osborne, you couldn't tell if he was upset or not. I've seen him upset, but it's a big difference. Yeah, Trees and Trev. Yeah, I'm still shocked by that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then just leaves. That's the problem. So yeah, that like I said, I think we're better off with Troy. I think Troy's more Rule and Troy. I think get along better. I think they're on more of the same page, and I think we'll do fine. I was just glad that I worried more about Rule leaving than Trev Alberts, and I know I know Rule's not going to stay forever. I just hope he stays longer, 3 years. I think that's the only difference in Rule and some of these great coaches everybody talks about is he's never won anything big because he don't stay long enough. I think if he stays long enough, I think Rule could win national championship. What could he have done at Baylor if he just stayed? I mean, he even had Temple up there. So really, new era. Hmm. Well, Nebraska. I was going to go to that game. I was wondering if any of y'all in Lincoln, if y'all want to go to that game, I could probably give you my ticket. I can't go. I got a kidney stone I'm battling, and I don't want to drive and be that thing hit me again. And so until it passes, it's electronic, so I could send it to you. But you probably already have to be up in Lincoln or something. Hmm. Somebody, if y'all want, if someone's in Lincoln and wants that ticket, just email me, Jeff at bigredcountry.net, and I could send it to your email. And then what you do is it's electronic. You have to put it to your phone. And I was going to go. I was supposed to leave tomorrow and head down there. And I had to go in the emergency room today because I had that kidney stone hit. I ain't going to sell it. I'm just going to give it to someone. You know, if someone just email me it, probably just take whoever the first email is, and I'll just send it to them. So, like I said, I got a kidney stone. They gave me some medicine for it, and I can't go now. I just need this thing to be out of me before the Colorado game because I don't want to give up the Colorado game. I thought it's okay to give up North Dakota State, or North Dakota State. Listen to me, UTEP, but I ain't giving up the Colorado game. I'll just be passing that kidney stone there on the field. So, yeah, thank you, Tiger. I've been dealing with this for 30 years. I have kidney stones probably 3 or 4 times a year. If I could figure out how to make money with them, I'd be rich. Um, but if anyone's ever had one, then y'all know how painful it could be. Right now, I'm high on hydrocodone, I guess, what they gave me. But 8 millimeters, so they're saying it should pass, but it was pain enough where I went to the emergency room because I knew what it was. I was just thinking maybe it was too big, but I can't be driving. It's Jeff at bigredcountry.net. Let's see. I'll show you where it is. There you go. But yeah, I was still going to go. My wife talked me out of it. She goes, "You don't want to be driving up there, and then that thing hits you in the middle of your drive." And I thought about it and thought, yeah, she's right. And it's UTEP, so I'm like, UTEP in the afternoon game. I heard the weather ain't going to be too bad, but a lot of times at this time of the year, it's hot. Good side as I'm on the club side, so I'm usually in the shade. Um, but that night game, Colorado, man, I ain't giving that up. I better pass this stone by then. That's all I have to say. So yeah, they did, didn't they? Call them pearls. If someone would buy them, yeah. Well, if y'all ever had one, trust me, you don't want one. They're that painful. I'm the first time I got one, I really thought I was dying. I thought there was no way I could be. I thought there was no way I could be in that much pain and not be dying. It's pain I can't describe, and it's not fun. Another one told me beer worked too. Um, someone said I had a urologist tell me, yeah, stay away from soft drinks, and he said a beer a day takes care of it. I'm not a big beer drinker, so if we could get to Shadur like we did last year, you got to think. To me, what did us in was the turnovers. That game was close, and you got to think we were a mile high too. there's a difference being up there playing in Denver and it is down there in Lincoln. And we had that defense. We had our defense on that field so much. I think at the end they just got tired. Yeah, you had them removed. I've had them removed 4 times. I've been having them since '97. There's only 4 they had to go get. All the others they passed, but I passed 3 or 4 a year. Most of them are real small and they're more uncomfortable than hurts, but this one is pretty bad. All right, Justin, I'll get that to you, buddy. Let's see. I think they do got something. They got him. I got a feeling Rule and Tony White and them's got some things up their sleeve. You know, I know a lot of people. Did y'all hear? Satterfield talked about Harburg, that they had a lot of packages, or that he's going to be on the field a lot with Raiola. And I even thought that too about, man, are they doing that to confuse UTEP? But then I started thinking, are they really doing that for Colorado? Are they really trying to throw a wrench into Colorado and say, oh, you're going to have to prepare for both of these? Because I don't think you really needed to do that for UTEP more than you probably would have Colorado. Yeah. And that happened a lot last year. Not just that game, but we turned the ball over 4 or 5 times in that game. And what was within 6, still in the third. So that's why I said people thought, well, they whipped you. Not really. Um, you know, so yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I do drink that. Yeah, been told that too. So, oh yeah, and that's true. The question is, how many you give them? I mean, you're going to have somebody turn the ball over, and even like with Raiola, I don't think you got to, just like that turnover Dylan had in the spring game. It wasn't his fault. Hit the receiver right in his hands, and it bounced out. And you're going to have that. But to me, it's more of the fumble, the holding the ball, or the fumbles. That just seemed to be a problem to the point I've never seen it. What happened last year, I'd never seen. I've been watching football 50 years. I've never seen that before. Had that many turnovers. You know, and that's what I tell everybody. How many would we have won if? How many would we have won if Casey Thompson stayed around? Because I always thought Casey Thompson was the better quarterback anyway. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking for. How many games? There wasn't I think there was one game last year? I think it was the Illinois game that we did not turn the ball over. I'm looking just for that. Plus I want to see how the secondary does. I want to see that. Everybody's trying to see what the offense does. I want to see what Dylan does, but I know UTEP's going to throw some things at us where we're going to know what our secondary looks like come tomorrow. Guarantee that, or come Saturday. I mean, yeah, yeah, and that's true because when we turned that ball over, it wasn't a lot of times it wasn't even hit. What was the Iowa game? It just popped out. What was it? One where Jeff Sims just stumbling and puts this, because he has the ball in his hand, he puts it down to brace himself and he drops the ball. It's like y'all act like that's a hot potato or something. Yeah. Well, we need to beat everybody, to be honest with you. Yeah. Justin's right. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. That's probably what I'm looking for. Yeah, I want to win, but that's probably what I'm looking for more this Saturday is how does the offense look? Does Dylan manage his team well? And then none of them It's not that I'm not looking for no turnovers. I'm looking to eliminate the stupid ones, and I know they're probably all stupid, but you know what I mean, where the ball just pops out of your hand, or you're not carrying it right. You're carrying it like a loaf of bread, and it comes out of your hand. That's things you could at least help protect. You're going to turn the ball over. It's just natural to every now and then do that, but you could help yourself by just doing the right thing. Let's see. I don't know. Is he on the hot seat? I think you're going to see a difference definitely in the kick return. I think Barney's just going to be explosive. Ja'Cory Barney, I think we're about to see that on Saturday. Um, I like John Hole as the kicker. I do like Tristan Albano, but he struggled last year, and to me, he struggled in the spring game. Wow, Illinois won 45-0. How did Rutgers do? I know Rutgers was leading. That's what I always tell everybody, man. You don't know what you're getting here. Everybody talking about how bad Illinois is going to be and all that. I'm going, yeah, Nebraska is going to be better, but how much better are the other teams? You know, Iowa brings back. They had a stout defense. What they bring back 8 or 9 guys on that defense. That defense they're going to have is going to be good. The question is, can they get offense? But one thing I do know, yeah, look at that. Rutgers 44-7. Rutgers is the one I'd worry about. That, believe it or not, that's a game that I know you might not like it, but I actually picked Rutgers probably beat us this year. I know it's in Lincoln, but yeah. So, but Illinois looks like at least Illinois is at home too. I know Rutgers is at home. I think like I feel like we lose before Ohio State. It's probably going to be Rutgers. Look at that. I think these old West teams, you know, yeah, well, but if they got 44, they found it. They figured it out in the second half, and that's typical. Don't be surprised that's not even a Nebraska here. You know, that's typical in that first half. You get these other teams, and they stay with you, and then the talent and depth comes out. So, but and you got to think, y'all see Rutgers' schedule? Man, they don't play nobody. Nebraska might be one of the toughest they play. They don't play Michigan or Penn State or Ohio State. I expect them to be. They might be 10-2, 11-1, just because they don't play no one. So, but they'll be a good team. I think Rutgers is going to be a lot better than people think, and not many's giving them a chance this year. But it's funny how everybody doesn't give them a chance to winning, but then everybody keeps saying, "Look out for them." Figure that one out. So, I do want to say, Rule hadn't said who. Did you hear where Rule's going to probably use both kickers Saturday? He's going to use Albano in the shorter kicks, and then use John Hole if you need a longer kick. And I wonder if he's going to do that. Are you going to waste a spot doing that all year, or does it automatically go back to Albano once he's 100%? I kind of like John Hole. I like his kicking. I want to give John Hole a shot. Nothing against Albano, but John Hole just seems like nothing bothers him. So, man, if we beat Colorado and USC, I say Nebraska probably goes 10-2, 9-3 at the least. They win. I think if you beat USC there, because you're going to beat them in in Los Angeles, but I liked that game there. Yeah. That's why you got to have that kicker. In this league, you got to have a kicker. Every game's going to be that close, and that's why everybody keeps saying Nebraska's unlucky because they've lost so many close games the last 3 or 4 years. That's just how close this league is, and if you don't have the special teams, you're not going to win these games. So special teams is key. What do you think Iowa's done? How long has Iowa not? When's the last time you said Iowa had a good defense or a good offense? I mean, when's the last time you seen Iowa have a good offense? You haven't. But yet they seem to go 10-2 every year because they play defense and special teams. You can win a lot of games when you can play them too. People don't remember Chris Brown. Oh, I remember Chris Brown, one of the better kickers we had. Might be the best kicker. I liked Henry, but Brown might have been our best kicker. Y'all realize that Nebraska used to be like kicker U. I remember back in the 70s, going into the early 80s, where you never spent a scholarship on kickers, and the field goal kicking was terrible. Nebraska was it 1981, I believe it was, where they played Missouri and won 6-0. And believe it or not, I don't know how many field goals he missed. He missed 2 or 3 field goals, and then the sixth was a touchdown, and he missed the extra point. I mean, we just didn't have a kicker. Yeah, yeah, I remember that one. It's like we they just didn't spend scholarship. They didn't waste a scholarship on a kicker back then. And I think finally they figured out they needed to. But then after that, we used to get kickers. Tom always had a kicker. Byron Bennett lives right over here by me. I know Byron pretty well. He lives close to me. We talked about that game. You know, I felt bad for him for that championship game. I think Chris Brown and Henry are probably our two best kickers we've had. You know, and Henry knocking down that 58 yarder, that was just sick. What do y'all think? Could you think our defensive line is better than our 2009 defensive line? You know, we had Crick and Sue back in 2009. Let's see. I remember going to the Penn State game in the early 80s. We beat them by a bunch, up 3 pointers. Yeah. Yeah. We played. What was the one we played? We played in 1978. We played them at home. Remember that one? Let's see. So cool. Thomas was fishing with recruits at 80. Yeah. Man, it's amazing what he can do at 87. He gets around better than I do at his age, you know. But he's the same age as my dad. And he's still as sharp as a whip. He could, I guarantee you, he could come and coach again. He knows every play, it's just embedded in his head. The man was just amazing. It's how I knew in 97 when he said he was retiring. I knew then it was over. No one's at Sue's level. That's what someone else said. Well, no one's better than Sue. I agree. No one's at Sue's level, but if you put them all together and put Nash, Ty, Butler with Judy and Williams backing up, and then you had Sue and Crick, and you remember who was after that. I only thought Crick looked good because of Sue. I think you and I could have looked good if we were next to Sue. And so I just said the line as a whole, I think this year could be better. But no one was better than Sue himself, no better player. I know someone made the remark to me they thought Nash. There ain't no way. Nash is better than Sue. So Tom Osborne, yes, man, and Tom Osborne could predict things. It was amazing some of the things he'd say would happen, and it happened. It just baffled me. So was it Terrell Farley? Was it Farley that was in that national championship and dropped that darn ball against Florida first drive? Yeah, that 95 team was one of probably our best all around team we had. I like the 83 offense, but we didn't really have much of a defense that year. But the 95 team, we were sound. I don't think anybody could have beat us in 95. You know, that was just an amazing team. And Tom Osborne finally had it figured out. And then he retired. How many would he have won if he didn't retire? I always wondered that. When he finally got it, it only took him 20 years or so to finally get everything down. But what else? Yeah. So, what do y'all think Nebraska going to do this year? What y'all think the record's going to be? Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the offense wasn't even close. They were number one in '83, but in '84 they had the best defense. But their defense in '83 wasn't that good. So yeah, if you could have combined them two, yeah, I think if he'd won another 10 years, I really believe it would have been more than 10. He just had it. He finally figured it out, and you're right. When it came to football, to me, there wasn't no one better than Coach Osborne. You know, eh, me, he's still amazing. Yeah, yeah. The sad thing is, I remember '71 and '95. '70, I started watching football when I was probably 1970. I was probably about 6, almost 7. And so I got to see the Bainey's 2 championships. Oh, they ain't you losing to UCLA. You had basically what I had. I had Rutgers, Ohio State, but I had probably USC or maybe even Iowa. I don't see UCLA beating us. UCLA is not to me going to be good this year, and we get UCLA at home. I I'm not going to say never, but I just don't see us losing to UCLA. Not at home. Not they're going to struggle a little bit this year. And the question is, what's USC got? You know, the defense again is the key, and we're playing them in Los Angeles. But to me, it's going to be easier for Nebraska or an Iowa or somebody like that to play in Los Angeles than USC or UCLA coming up here and playing in November. And I just don't think UCLA and them's going to do well. That's where you got to have that running game. When, as you guys know, with that wind, they're I just don't see them losing. Yeah, I just not UCLA, but you never say never. They can, but and then you never know what's Nebraska. How many injuries Nebraska got? Then it's not like it could be never, but if it's like it is right now, I don't see them losing. But I don't see Nebraska running the table at the end. I'd see them losing the. I kind of got them thinking they might lose to Wisconsin. They haven't beat Wisconsin in 10 years. Seems like they get them on the ropes every year, and they can't get over that hump. You know, they could at least beat Iowa. I got tickets for that game too. I bought tickets for that game. I'm going to go to Iowa City and watch that one. So see how well they treat me there. Because yeah, I'm like you guys. I don't think there's no way that we lose to UCLA, but Rutgers is one I figured they could lose, and definitely Ohio State. Now, would you take them losing to someone that they wouldn't lose, but they beat Ohio State? Kool-Aid. Yeah, I'm like you. I don't want them to lose. Man, I was that way every year. When back in the day when they won, shoot, we'd go down here and be upset. Me and my brother, because we lived down in Texas, we'd there and watch them go play. Tom and them go play at Baylor, and they won 49-21, I believe it was. But they got their 21. That as the clock ran out, they scored and made it 21. And we were pissed going home because it was 49-21 instead of 49-14. Now we'd beg for 49-48. Yeah, we used to get mad about that. Our wives thought they lost. Oh, they lost. No. I think we'll beat up. They do. That's true. And I'm just not too sure. Everybody's more on the coach about how well he does and that he's going to have them going, but they didn't look good last year. So yeah, that was. I think Tech got some revenge on that one. When was that one? Oh, 04? 05? So, well, guys, if you don't mind, I'm gonna call it a night. I'm starting to hurt pretty bad here, and I appreciate you guys joining on me. But get this win on Saturday and see how well Nebraska does, and go from there. We'll see about that. 2004. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah, that was. I think they were just paying us back for all them times we probably beat the crap out of them. I think early on you saw that a lot from teams because Nebraska put it on them a few times. So, but hey, Justin, I'm gonna check my email and I'll get that to you, buddy. And they better win. If they don't win, you probably never get another one. I'm superstitious. So, but hey, guys, I appreciate you guys jumping on, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.